Here's something I didn't expect to say today. Thank God the Celtics have Jaden Springer. Celtics didn't make it easy on themselves, but Jaden Springer saved them. Talking about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamp. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Plus like Jrue to KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining Jace, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I got you covered every Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts on the weekends. They play Dallas on Saturday, so bonus podcast this weekend. It means you've got to be subscribed. Whenever the show is ready and published, it drops directly to your device when you are a subscriber. So do that. Get into the YouTube page, get into that comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the show, I am John Karalis. I have been covering the Celtics for about 20 years. I'm doing it now as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase of tickets to stuff. It's over there in the Game Time app. Celtics get the overtime win, 117-113, which means I'm recording this very, very late. So I apologize. It's like 3:15 in the morning. I apologize if my brain isn't cooperating, but that would just make me fall right in line with the Celtics, whose brains don't cooperate with them in the clutch anymore. Let me just say this. This is a championship team. How is it that they are like fading so badly in the clutch recently? I have no idea, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. That's coming up in a later segment. We'll talk about the individual scoring nights and all of that stuff later on. Let's start. Obviously, the Clippers were without everybody. They started Amir Coffey, Derrick Jones Jr., Mo Bamba, Terrence Mann, and Kevin Porter Jr. It's not their usual starting lineup. And they rode that lineup pretty hard because they played Kobe Brown 37, almost 38 minutes. And then Bones Highland, Jordan Miller played less than 17. So they rode that starting unit very hard. And I think that played a role in the fourth quarter where things started to fall apart. It coincided with Jaden Springer. He's the hero of this game. But just right off the bat, credit to the Clippers. They came in, they played hard. This was an opportunity for them to get a shot to play against the champs. And this is what getting the other team's best shot looks like. Because for three quarters, the Clippers shot 60%, 60% through three quarters is impossible. That's so impossible to do. It happens. There's a reason why that number is outrageous. You just never see that kind of shooting night. But man, the Clippers, it started out with, okay, the Celtics weren't great at the point of attack. They were still forcing a lot of turnovers, but they weren't great at the point of attack, and they were allowing a bunch of points in the paint, and they were allowing dribble penetration and stuff like that. Then it became the Clippers were just hitting difficult shots, and they were hitting everything. And it was kind of like I was sitting there watching, being like, you hit that now? Okay, so Kevin Porter Jr. is hitting that shot now. Okay, Amir Coffey is like carrying an entire quarter now. Great. Derrick Jones Jr. Is 17 points in the first quarter. Sure, why not? That stuff it got to a point there in the third quarter where I was like, maybe they'll just shoot 60% for this entire game. And this whole notion where earlier in the game, I was like, yeah, I expected them to come out strong because these are guys who don't get a ton of opportunity, and they're facing the defending champs. Of course, they're going to come out and play great. Of course, they're going to come out and um, make come out with that effort, come out with that intensity and all of that stuff. So, but I thought once they started making substitutions and once the game started rolling, you're going to see guys start to cool off. I thought by halftime, the Celtics might have a little bit of a lead. By the third quarter, I expected it to be double digits at the very least. And I expected in the fourth quarter for the Celtics to kind of run away with it. And Brian Scalabrine did too. At halftime of the game, they started the third quarter, and he specifically said on the broadcast, "Is like I'm smelling a blowout here," because you started to feel like maybe some of that was going to happen, but it never did. And credit to the Clippers. Springer checked in and made a massive difference in this game. 4:18 to go in the third quarter, he checks in and the entire game changes. And again, some of this coincided with maybe some fatigue, but I mean, good for Jaden Springer. He earned a little bit of a boost in the statistics because he played so hard. He checked in 4:18 to go in the third. Kevin Porter Jr. had 24 points on 11 of 16 shooting. After that, Porter was killing him. After that, Porter was 1 of 5 when Springer checked in. The Clippers were shooting 60% at the time, and then they shot 40% the rest of the way with 11 turnovers. The Celtics were forcing turnovers without Springer, but Springer comes in. He had 4 steals in 12 minutes. He immediately, everything changes. And credit to him for probably not knowing, like he didn't get a heads up that he was going to play in this game. In fact, they went with Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh early in the game to try to get some energy in there. And the Celtics, by the way, without Kristaps Porzingis, without Al Horford, without Jrue Holiday, which I agreed with. Side note, I agreed with that. The Clippers were missing all of their good players for the most part. And I thought this is going to be great that the Celtics are going to be forced to play hard because they're missing their starting center, the backup center, and their starting guard. And I thought the Celtics they're not going to be able to like sit back and be like, look, we've got our starting 5. We're just going to chill. Thought that was a good move. And to be clear, I thought the Celtics energy was good throughout the game. Like, I don't think I had a debate with someone on Blue Sky about them, saying that they were sleepwalking. I don't think they were sleepwalking through this game. If they were sleepwalking the way the Clippers were playing, they would have lost this game by like 20. The Celtics played hard, but they didn't focus their energy necessarily where it needed to be. They played with good energy, but they didn't apply it to like the early rebounding. There were a ton of second chance points. They didn't apply it. They weren't playing great at the point of attack all the time. So it's not that they came out and were sleepwalking. They weren't crisp as far as, defensively. But again, missing Holiday, missing Porzingis, that does change a lot of that defensive dynamic. But so Springer gets the call in the third quarter and delivers. And it was a little clunky. It was a little clunky on offense. The Clippers the Celtics made some mistakes by putting Springer in the corner early on because the teams were leaving the Clippers were leaving him, and the help was bothering Jayson Tatum. And ultimately Tatum made the passes and Springer missed a couple, but he hit a big one in the fourth quarter. Then he hit a big one in overtime. But it took a little while for the offense to start to flow, but defensively he came in and changed everything. So credit to him for coming in and executing. Credit to Joe Mazzulla for pushing that button and saying, we all saw it. We all saw how easily the guards were getting past the point of attack, and so he said, "Look, we're going to have to live with whatever they do defensively on Springer because we need to get stops. We're not going to win this game if we don't get stops." And so Mazzulla saw that, said that, and pushed that button, and the button worked, man. Jaden Springer, it's a good coaching move. It's a great, give the player the credit and still give like Jayson Tatum the credit in overtime, making that pass, still trusting his teammate, and Springer hits that shot right in front of his old teammate, James Harden, who missed this game. So Springer completely changed this entire game with his defensive energy. But in the fourth quarter, when the game was won, the Celtics again just soiled themselves. What's going on with that? Let's talk about that when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by Talkspace. Now, I've been very open about my therapy journey, and I know that therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, communicate more effectively, and finding the right therapist. I know it's difficult fitting in sessions into a busy schedule. It's a challenge, and that's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider, and it makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health, which I know is very important. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA. If you're on the YouTube page, you'll see it right there at the bottom of the screen. Use the code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter that promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA, promo code SPACE80. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Why not read about the Celtics as well as listen to them? Listen to me talk about them. The new Locked On Celtics newsletter is available. Go to LockedOnDaily.com. You sign up by clicking on that Locked On Celtics logo at LockedOnDaily.com. You sign up. Gets delivered directly to your inbox Monday through Friday. Click on that email, open it up, and you'll see Celtics coverage, NBA coverage, fantasy coverage, plus links to some great Celtics content out there on the internet. So go to LockedOnDaily.com, click that Locked On Celtics logo, and get the Locked On Celtics daily newsletter. So the Celtics had this game won, just like they had the Atlanta game won. And once again, this team gets passive. They were up 103-97 with 1:03 to go. 103-99 with 20 seconds to go. 5-point lead with 20 seconds to go. And the Celtics give up 2 turnovers. And in that course of that last minute, 2 layups and a dunk they give up. Now, of course, one of those turnovers was an offensive foul on Jaylen Brown, and the refs completely missed a timeout called. You can see it. I put it on my social media where they you can hear when Jaylen Brown gets the ball on the block, you can hear Joe Mazzulla screaming timeout through the screen. You can hear it. But on the floor in the arena, they couldn't hear it. And that to me is just an egregious error by the officials. You cannot miss a coach calling a timeout in that situation. Not only can you not miss it, you have to be aware that the coach might be calling it. This is a late game situation. There's 20 seconds left. I know the refs get caught up in watching and refereeing the play, but that is a spot the referees need to know time, score, situation, just like the players do, and understand if there's any amount of trouble going on, the team with the ball may be trying to call a timeout. But they didn't even, like, no one paid attention to that. I don't know what would have happened after that. Look, I'm not going to pretend that the Celtics were on their way to some great execution. The way they played that last minute plus was maybe they would have found a different horrible way to turn the ball over. Which, by the way, the Celtics, they didn't make a ton of mistakes, I don't think. Like overall the entire course of the game, but the mistakes that they made were glaring and gross and destructive. Like when they didn't just make little mistakes, they had 2 turnovers on inbounds plays. Jayson Tatum completely just forgot, hey, after a make, buddy, you can run the baseline. You know, he just didn't, and he forgot about that for no reason. I don't understand. Like, you're an NBA player. After a make, you can run the baseline, and he turned the ball over. The Celtics, when they make their mistakes, it's like they make the worst possible mistake you can make, and it blows away a lot of the good things that they do. I don't understand why the Celtics kept inbounding the ball into the corners when the other team is trapping and pressuring and not fouling. This is a strategy. Like, maybe the Celtics expected to get fouled, and when they didn't, they panicked or didn't know what to do. But when the ball gets thrown into a corner and Jaylen Brown and Derrick White both got trapped, you are essentially giving the other team 2 extra defenders. The baseline and the sideline become defenders because you can't step over those lines. So now, if you're the Clippers, yeah, of course, Jaylen Brown, he's stuck. So don't foul, because now you're doubling, but he's stuck in the corner. He's not going to see everybody on the floor. He has to jump and make a play or try to sneak through. If you're playing well, of course that's a turnover. Of course it ends up being a turnover, because that's a stupid place to throw the ball. Joe Mazzulla said it after the game, where you can't be passive. The quote, you have to be strong with the ball, cut to the basket. Sometimes you try to be a little passive when you're trying to make a pass. You've got to make the layup. You got to be strong with the ball. You got to get the spacing. You got to be aggressive. That's what his quote is about late game situations. The Celtics continue to just be like, oh, we're up 5 with this minute left. Let's just forget about scoring. We're just going to take as much time off the clock as possible. When you score, the time doesn't matter. You're adding points. So you're up 5. Now you're up 7. That means you are, in effect, taking time off the clock, because it forces the Clippers to play another possession. So that 4, 5, 6 seconds you're trying to milk off the clock, that's going to come off the clock later anyway. By adding an extra bucket, that's an extra possession. 5-point game, that's 2 possessions. It's 2 trips up and down the floor. You make it a 7-point game, that's a 3rd trip. That 4 or 5 seconds is just bringing the ball up. You're forcing them to call a timeout. You're taking their timeouts away from them by adding a 3rd possession. They only get 2 timeouts in the last 2 minutes. So you're guaranteeing, even if you're trading baskets, by scoring that basket, you're adding another possession, which is guaranteed to not have a timeout there. So the 4 or 5 seconds you're trying to waste, that's the 4 or 5 seconds right there that will be wasted. So don't just try to milk the clock. Score the bucket, cut to the basket, hit the layup. Just add points they cannot possibly come back. It is impossible for them to come back if you keep scoring. So stop trying to waste time. Close the damn game out. Finish. Stop being so passive. It's infuriating. Luckily, the Clippers ran out of gas and they didn't have all their best players. And so overtime went Boston's way. And it needed to go Boston's way because if they had lost this after that collapse, the entire, you can tell the mood here, just talking about that late game execution, is garbage. It's just terrible. So at least they got out of it, but they almost didn't. Let's talk about the individual performances before we wrap up this post-game podcast in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. So you want to go to a live event? I like going to live events, sports, concerts, comedy show, theater. Okay, I admit I'm not going to go to a theater. Production's just not my thing, but my wife will, and she's more than welcome to take a friend and buy a couple of tickets to a show using the Game Time app. And you can find seats to that, or I can find seats to whatever game I want to go to, and she'll come with me to that. But Game Time's made it super easy to get these tickets with their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff, and you'll only get the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So, like I've told you, my wife used it to get Patriots tickets and use it to go to a couple of shows. The Super Deal is a particularly impressive feature, offers great seats at unbeatable prices. The app's all-in pricing shows you the total cost up front, so no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKED, Locked on NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Get rid of that on the YouTube page. Thank you. And go check out the Locked On NBA podcast. I'm normally on Fridays with Jake Madison. I won't be on this Friday because the Celtics have this Thursday night game with the Lakers. So I will be otherwise occupied, but I'm generally there on Fridays. Locked On NBA game night. Great place to go get caught up on the entire league. And of course, Locked On NBA show in the afternoons covers all the big topics, debate show style. So check that out. Let's go through the individual performances. So Jaylen Brown, non-clutch minutes was very good, I think, but 5 turnovers, a couple of them late. Like his late game execution was not good, and that is a problem. My thought watching Jaylen kind of go through that is like, well, this is kind of part of why you're not always involved in the fourth quarter. Like Jaylen is he can catch and shoot. I don't know about Jaylen creating in the fourth quarter. He did not do that well in this game, but otherwise he was good. 8 of 15 shooting, 25 points to lead the Celtics, 6 assists, 3 steals. Otherwise Jaylen had a really good game. Jayson Tatum had a really good game. 24 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Didn't shoot well. Some of the shots were not great, and he had 5 turnovers. So, good performances, but also like some sloppiness there. And Jayson is not immune to the same mistakes. So these guys, look, maybe it's because I'm late and I'm a little tired, and maybe there's the little extra crankiness level here, but this is, you're champions. Jaylen Brown is a Finals MVP, and Jayson Tatum could have been a Finals MVP. These guys have to know. They have to be better. They have to be more focused. Like you just have to have the poise under pressure. And honestly, it is on everybody else too, because they have to you have to make sure that they have the passing options in those spots. But that part aside, I thought the rest of their games were pretty good. Derrick White, huge in the fourth quarter and overtime. He in the fourth quarter, and let me just get to my box score there. In the fourth quarter, Derrick White was 4 of 7, 2 of 4, 10 points, and then he hit a shot in overtime when the Celtics went basically three pointers in a row. So he was really good there. He had 20 points overall, so half of those in the fourth quarter, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, a steal, not a block. I thought he had a block in there somewhere, but guess not. Neemias Queta I thought was really good, and then he had that layup at the end, which was, Joe highlighted it after the game, said that's what you're supposed to do. Like, just take the layup, finish it. Don't mess around. Just take the layup. So I thought Queta was pretty good. He had some stretches. I think he was better earlier on, but some good finishes around the basket. I thought he played some pretty decent defense. He made some mistakes later on. And he was there in the clutch where he misplayed a couple of pick and rolls, was too high, and defender turned the corner, and it just made it difficult. You got it. I think Kate is developing well. I think he still makes mistakes, but he is developing well. And to his credit, like early in the season, I was complaining about him bringing every time he caught a pass, he brought it down to his waist so he can gather and try to go up. And he's really worked at it, because early in the game, he had a couple like back-to-back possessions where he kept the ball up high, and those were finishes. And I think if he brought the ball down low, it might have been stripped. So good for him. That shows development, practice, and all of that stuff. Sam Hauser was big, 5 of 7 from 3. That's an important development to get that shot going. Even though Peyton Pritchard was not joining him, getting that shot going for Hauser helps the Celtics. They were 19 of 50 from 3. That's a big number, because the Clippers were 9 of 28. So that's a 30-point advantage from the 3-point line. Counteracts the 14 advantage that the Clippers had at points in the paint, and the 8 extra second chance points that they had. So the Celtics winning there on that margin, very important. They both took 90 shots. The Celtics actually made 6 fewer shots, right? So Celtics were 41 of 90. The Clippers were 47 of 90. The Celtics got 6 more free throws, but they got made 10 more 3-pointers. And there's your difference in the game. That's it right there. So between that and, like, the Clippers were making some tough shots, but they took a lot of 2s. So that's kind of like classic Celtics math working out here. So it was good to see Sam hit. Pritchard had a tough game, but overall, not the worst. I thought the Celtics energy was good. I don't think they played poorly, but they did make some mistakes, and it is important to note that they didn't have Porzingis, they didn't have Horford, and they didn't have Holiday. And you say, well, they shouldn't need those guys to beat the Clippers. And, well, they did beat the Clippers, but it should have been easier. Like, okay, maybe, but there's, someone made the point on Boston Sports Journal. Doc had a great line, we pay them all, when he talks about it, the roster, we pay all of them. So you don't just pay the starters. You don't just pay your stars. You pay the entire team. And there's a reason why these guys get paid to play. Like, Derrick Jones Jr. is a very capable scorer. Terrence Mann is a capable scorer. Amir Coffey has, been proven. Kevin Porter Jr., has been known to score buckets. So those guys all are capable. And they came out with that energy. They came out with that fire, and they came out hot. The Celtics defense wasn't perfect, and so they stayed hot. And when the Celtics defense got better, they still stayed hot. And it took It took Jaden Springer to get the job done. But without Porzingis protecting the rim, without Horford there helping with everything, and without Holiday there as a point of attack defender, like, just if they had Holiday, then instead of Sam Hauser, and Sam Hauser has proven himself to be capable, but it's not Jrue Holiday. And if you had Holiday, maybe Derrick Jones Jr. doesn't go for what he went for early on. Maybe he has a 13-point first quarter instead of 17, and it trickles down. Or maybe Kevin Porter Jr. just doesn't get going at all because Holiday is on him. Like that is a difference maker. So maybe you don't need Jaden Springer to come in because Holiday would have been there, but we don't know how that would have gone. But it does mean something, even against the depleted Clippers. It still means something, because if you had your whole team, then a lot of those drives to the rim might have never even happened because Porzingis would have been there and they would have backed out, or he would have gotten a few blocks and changed the game. And like I said, Holiday would have been defending, maybe, Kevin Porter or maybe Amir Coffey, and maybe those guys don't get going. That changes the entire dynamic. So did they need those guys to beat the Clippers? No, they still beat them, and they would have beaten them by a little bit more, would have looked a little bit better if they had better late game execution, but whatever, they won. It's their first back-to-back wins since January 2nd and 3rd. So I know it's not like the Celtics are back. I'm not going to sit here and say the Celtics are back, but they got 2 wins on this West Coast trip so far. And they will, I think, have everybody for this trip. I mean, for this back-to-back against the Lakers. The Celtics sat everybody after they saw the Clippers being like just sitting everybody out. So they saw that and they sat everybody, and now they will have everybody back for this game against the Lakers. This is a game that everybody's going to want to win. It's the national TV game. They will have their full roster. And all the Celtics fans, it's beat LA, and that's the quote unquote important one. So we'll see how the Celtics do against the Lakers. I'm glad that the Celtics didn't have to stagger Horford and Porzingis, and you get both against the Lakers. I like that. Let's hopefully this all works out. This goes down as a win. The Celtics need the wins. They're 31-13, so I don't want to exaggerate that they need the wins, but considering their stretch, that 8-8 stretch, now they're 2-0 past that stretch. If you sweep a West Coast trip, then that's always a major success. However you do it, as long as you do it. So now you got 3 guys who didn't play in the back-to-back. Maybe they can carry the Celtics against the Lakers. And then you go to Dallas, who's decimated by injuries, and maybe you win that game. It's lining up. It's starting to line up. This is good. So I will be here after the Lakers game. I will be here after the Mavericks game. So make sure you're subscribed. Get into that comment section on the YouTube page. Share your thoughts on everything that I've talked about. Share something that maybe I've missed. It's entirely possible. I've only got half an hour, so I've overlooked a couple of things here. But let me know in the comment section, and then I would love it if you shared the podcast and told everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.